Hello and welcome everyone to this very important geopolitical video that also impacts your perspective on the markets. We are talking about something very important, and that is that Trump, in my opinion, very likely already made a deal with Putin for peace. Why do I think that, and why is it so important? Before I go into the details, I want to just acknowledge that the Ukraine war is something absolutely horrifying. There are hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of people who lost loved ones in the most violent and brutal way. So I understand this is a very emotional topic. And please understand, I'm just providing analytics here and analysis of a geopolitical situation that allows us to make the right decisions and understand reality better. I'm not endorsing any of these horrible things. So let's get to what I'm thinking here and why I think and believe that Trump already made a deal with Putin, which is something no one seems to understand right now. So what we saw in the White House with Zelensky and Trump has shocked a lot of people. You know what happened. Trump treated Zelensky pretty badly. Of course, Zelensky also misbehaved very badly. Trump is now pulling military aid from Ukraine in the middle of a war, seemingly. And people think, is he crazy? Is he throwing Ukraine under the bus? I believe it's part of a deal-making strategy. And I believe the fact that Trump is taking these measures that clearly weakens Ukraine is proof that there is already a deal with Russia and that the United States has some form of serious leverage over Russia. Why do I think that? Think about the art of the deal, and regardless what you think of Trump, you have to admit that he is a savvy deal maker and got his way his whole life. So he knows what he's doing, and he doesn't want to look weak or be weak in a negotiation. If there wouldn't be a deal on the table with Putin, and if there wouldn't be leverage of the United States over Russia, what Trump is doing would massively weaken the negotiation position of Ukraine and the United States towards Russia. Because by pulling military aid, by openly, pulling any kind of support to Ukraine, Trump weakens Ukraine and strengthens Russia, at least at face value. But something doesn't add up, because why would Trump do that? He's losing all his leverage over Russia. If Russia can make military advances, take more land, and hammer Ukraine more, and would become more strong in this war, Trump and Ukraine loses their cards in that negotiation. Trump would never do that. It would be a major pattern breaker in Trump's behavior his whole life that we have observed. That is why I believe something is off here and something is very, very different. I do believe that for some reason, Trump, through Marco Rubio in Saudi Arabia, when they met with the Russians mid of February, has done something and put something on the table where they can be sure that Russia will sign a peace agreement that they already know how it looks like. That means Trump's only focus is now to hammer Ukraine in a way that forces Zelensky to sign that minerals deal, which is the crucial point on the Ukraine side towards the United States, and get this done. So it's an equation with two variables, Russia and Ukraine. The behavior, the total focus on Ukraine, the total pressure Trump is exerting on Ukraine makes me pretty sure that the other variable, Russia, has already been solved. Now, I want to provide you with two pieces of interesting insight here. Trump commenting on the situation in the White House, and explain a little bit why I believe, especially the second piece, why I believe this is more evidence for what I just said. So let's go into this and quickly play this soundbite.
If I may, President Putin is bombing Ukraine.
Yeah.
Do you still believe him when he tells you that he wants peace?
Yeah, no, I believe him. I believe him. I think we're doing very well with Russia. But right now, they're bombing the hell out of Ukraine. And Ukraine, I'm finding it more difficult, frankly, to deal with Ukraine. And they don't have the cards. They don't have the cards. As you know, we're meeting in Saudi Arabia on sometime next week, early. And we're talking, would I find that in terms of getting a final settlement, it may be easier dealing with Russia, which is surprising because they have all the cards. I mean, they're bombing the hell out of them right now. And I put a statement in, a very strong statement. Can't do that. Can't do that.
Mr. President,
We're trying to help them. and Ukraine has to get on the ball and get a job done. I watched over the last week or so what's going on in Europe. This thing could end up in World War III if we don't get it settled.
So think about this. So Trump clearly, when asked about this whole thing, if it makes Ukraine weaker and all these things, he completely dismisses this problem of Russia becoming stronger in the negotiation. He completely dismisses it and says, that's not the problem. He's sure Russia wants a deal. Why would he say that? Why would he say it if it's not already done? Because if it's not done, he just exposes himself to look like a complete fool. He would never do that. But here's a second piece that I want to share that is much more telling, shockingly telling. And I just saw this today, about something Trump said in the White House when asked some questions about Russia. And this is pretty shocking. Now listen to this very closely and see what Trump says here. I think it's absolutely telling what is going on here.
Well, I think what's going to happen is Ukraine wants to make a deal because I don't think they have a choice. I also think that Russia wants to make a deal because in a different way that only I know, they have no choice either.
That's basically it. And some people say, Joe, you're exaggerating. You're crazy. He's just Trump. He's just saying random things. No, he's not. When you think about his behavior and how he seemingly throws Ukraine under the bus, when he cannot afford to completely give up everything to Russia, then this comment here, he tries to not say too much. You see how concentrated Trump is when he answers these questions, also in the previous clip. He's extremely cautious what he's saying. He clearly plays some form of 3 or 4D chess here because he knows he can't say certain things. I think here something slipped out that he didn't want to specify. So it's very likely that the United States has some major leverage over Russia. Now, maybe you ask yourself, how is this possible? How would Trump invent out of thin air some magic leverage over Russia that is so powerful that it can force Russia into submission effectively and do what the United States wants? Well, first of all, let's speculate what this could be. I tell you, there's a whole range of things we are talking about. Of course, you could start supplying Ukraine with way more weapons, but I don't think Trump doesn't think in military terms. I don't think that's it. I think Trump's super weapon and Trump's central strength is economics. He's surrounded by the smartest people on earth when it comes to trade and economics. All the billionaires, but also all the Wall Street billionaires, not just Elon, Zuckerberg, Bezos, but also all this entire Wall Street crowd. Trump is absolutely synced with them. They understand what really matters in geopolitics. It's not the military. No one cares about that stuff. It's about money. Everything is about money. Russia, as China, as everyone else, is always vulnerable in one way or the other. I am pretty sure the United States can construct a leverage point over Russia that is pretty devastating if implemented correctly. It has to do with oil, with gas, with financial systems. It has to do with India, all kinds of people. I don't know exactly what it is. I can just imagine there's a whole range of tools that would be devastating to Russia if yielded appropriately. Now, you would maybe ask, why would Trump be such a genius to come up with this stuff? Why didn't Biden come up with this stuff? Well, I have a very simple theory. I believe Biden was also surrounded by competent people, not as many as Trump, but they also had their competent people. They could have found that thing. But here's the thing. Biden was a typical globalist. He had no interest in ending the war. And we have to understand that this war, even though Putin is the one who started it, who is the aggressor, who killed a lot of innocent people, but we have to understand that the United States wanted this war and has designed its foreign policy towards Ukraine and Russia in a way that forced Putin more or less to start this war, which doesn't make him innocent. He's still a killer. He killed all these people. But it's something that was clear from the outset under Obama and under Biden that this war was wanted by pushing Ukraine towards a NATO membership or pulling them in, whatever you call it, and by having all these hawks in Washington, making sure that they are getting their war for two simple reasons. First of all, you have these delusional, crazy war hawks that just believe we have to weaken Russia by dragging them into a bloody war and draining them of resources. And they think that's fun and it's great. And then the more serious crowd that just wants to make money, from BlackRock to Lockheed Martin and all the other guys. So of course they benefit from war. That's everyone learns that in kindergarten these days. So it's not a question if Biden was too dumb and his advisors to find that whatever key lever Trump has here. The difference is they never had an intent of ending the war, whereas Trump actually wants to end the war. I think it's smart to end the war. I think it's much better from a humanistic and human perspective, but also from an economic perspective for the United States, and from a geostrategic perspective, which is Trump's main driver here, in my opinion, that he wants to economically isolate China. And the key is to build an axis and alliance with Russia. The European Union will fall in line easily all the time. So I think that is his real plan. And that's why he's so intent on peace. And to get peace, you take out all the leverage against Russia. You keep it silent. You want to allow Putin to keep face. Putin has to look like the winner in this whole thing. Otherwise, he will not agree, because looking like a loser will make Putin not agree to any peace deal, because Putin cannot afford to look like a loser. He's risking his own life and his survival inside Russia if the other Russians think he's weak. So Putin needs to look like a winner. At least he has to be able to sell it inside as a win. So Trump cannot tell anyone about the real leverage they're exerting here. They have to look Ukraine like a total loser, because actually no one cares about if Ukraine looks like a loser. What we care about is that there's real lasting peace here. And I think that is the reason why Trump is so intent on hammering Ukraine to get on to join the table and sign this peace deal. So there you have it. That's my theory. I think it's a very sound theory if you understand Trump's behavioral patterns, and that he would never put himself into a weak negotiation position. So something is going on. I think Rubio and the other guys, his Russian counterparts in Saudi Arabia, put the cards on the table. Russia understands they have to fall in line. Trump allows them to keep face. He's hammering Ukraine. What he needs is the mineral deal. Once the mineral deal is signed, Ukraine is safe. Because once the United States has business interest of that proportion in Ukraine, Russia cannot attack anymore. There will be concessions, of course, but the bigger strategy, as I laid out in a previous video, is that Trump wants an axis with Russia for geostrategic reasons, and Putin is very happy and open about that. So that is what's going on here. In my opinion, this is the most likely outcome. What that means in terms of markets and macro trading here, and also for Tesla investors, where Tesla is right now a function of the macro environment, I think here's the timeline that we are looking at. I think Zelensky has no choice at this point. Zelensky is completely screwed. Zelensky has to come back. I read he just sent an apology letter to Trump. I don't know if that's true or not, but it's circulating on X, probably true. He's going to sign the mineral deal. They're then going to create a ceasefire with Russia, and people will be surprised how fast a peace deal is being signed, because Russia is already prepared to do that. And they will allow for Putin to look like a winner, at least inside Russia. Trump will downplay the whole thing and say, well, whatever, we are getting along with Russia, great. Now we have a peace deal, Putin is great. He will throw Zelensky under the bus personally as a person. He doesn't like him at all for many reasons. It's going to be very good for Ukraine and for Russia, because the killing will finally stop, which I'm shocked that so few people actually care about that. That's what I care the most about. And from there we go. So macro market terms, I think this can happen much more quickly than people think. I think we're only weeks away from Zelensky agreeing to all of that stuff. And I think after that, the total peace deal and ceasefire will happen far faster than people believe. Now, what if I'm wrong? If that turns out to be wrong, if Zelensky signs the stuff and then turns out there's endless negotiations with Russia, that is actually controversial. I was wrong on this prediction. That is also great, because it allows me to correct my Trump mental model that I have. Then Trump would be, in fact, an idiot. Because if he does that, everything he did so far was foolish. I think the probability that this happens, that after Zelensky agrees to this, we are going into endless negotiations and Russia actually comes out super strong and can force the United States to do certain things, I think this is insanely unlikely, because it would mean everything that happened before in the 80 years of Trump's life before was, reinterpreted. I don't think so. So let's see what happens. I think this is a big potential upside surprise for markets. Peace would be tremendous for Europe, for America, for the world at large. It would be extremely important to get to peace. I think it's going to happen much sooner, maybe in April, and it will be a very positive surprise and catalyst for markets. I hope that was helpful. Let me know what you think in the comments. See you soon.